From the hot, dry days of Indian Wells to the hot, humid days of Miami. What's up, tennis fans? Sleepy Picks here. We got another Master Series about to get underway. The Miami Open draw was just released. Let's take a look at the draw and we'll make some picks. And just like Indian Wells, we're going to split this draw into 8 parts. This is Alcaraz's part of the draw. First matchup we have is Fonseca playing Maroszan, and how exciting to think if Fonseca wins this, we're going to get an Alcaraz-Fonseca second round matchup. I mean, considering that Fonseca just played Sinner really tight, maybe he can give Alcaraz a tough go. But let's talk about the matchup first here with Fonseca and Maroszan. And I got to be honest, guys, probably like 3 weeks ago, I probably would be picking Maroszan in this situation because I did think he was playing good tennis. And remember, we talked about when he was playing Bautista Agut, I said, this was it. If he doesn't win this match, I'm out. I'm not picking him again until he proves to me that he can actually consistently win tennis matches. And guess what? He lost to Bautista Agut in 3 sets at Indian Wells, 6-4, 6-7, 6-4. Fonseca, on the other hand, had a really nice Indian Wells run, getting to the 4th round, losing to Sinner 7-6, 7-6. On his way there, he was able to beat Tommy Paul in straight sets, Khachanov in 3 sets, and Collignon in 2 tough sets. Fonseca sitting at 3-2 on the outdoor hard courts. Maroszan is 6-6 on the outdoor hard courts. They do have a head-to-head. It is 1-0 for Maroszan, who was able to win their only matchup last year in Rome in 2025, first round, 6-3, 7-6 over Fonseca. I think this is going to be a little bit different. I also think that in Miami, Fonseca has a very strong following. This is going to be a very large, loud Brazilian crowd for Fonseca. I think that's going to change the tide here of the match. I think it's going to amp Fonseca up, especially in those tight moments, those deuce games. If we get to like 5-all, the crowd's really going to push him through this match. I'm going to pick Fonseca. I think he gets through in straight sets. Next matchup, we have Perricard playing Carabelli. This is a matchup of 2 contrasting styles, and honestly, kind of interesting because Carabelli got a similar first-round matchup in Martin Dam at Indian Wells, and it'll be interesting to see the difference between Martin Dam and Perricard here. But Perricard likes to hit the big serve, hit the big forehand, and Carabelli likes to grind. He only has 1 win on the outdoor hard courts, and that was to Martin Dam last week, 7-6, 6-3. Now, we did note that the courts in Indian Wells playing a little bit slower. You got the balls fluffing up. It made it a little bit hard for Dam to hit through the courts. I don't think Perricard's going to have that issue here in Miami. Perricard coming off a Indian Wells first-round loss to Majek, 6-3, 1-6, 7-5. And we remember Majek, he was able to get through and play Djokovic pretty tough in the second round. Carabelli got that first-round win over Dam and then lost to Nakashima 6-3, 6-4. Pretty straightforward. Remember, we talked a little bit about the return of Nakashima against Carabelli, and that I thought made a big difference. I think the Perricard return is definitely going to make a difference here, and I do give Perricard a step up over Martin Dam in the returning category. Perricard is 7-6 in outdoor hard courts overall. Carabelli is 1-4 in outdoor hard courts overall. They do have a head-to-head. Perricard got a win back in 2022 in the Lima Challenger, second round, 7-5, 7-5. That was on clay, so pretty interesting there. Obviously, that's Carabelli's stomping grounds there on the clay. I think this is going to be a pretty straightforward match. I'm going to say Perricard gets another straight set win over Carabelli. Give me Perricard in straights. Next match, we have Duckworth playing Bautista Agut. And when I first looked at this matchup, I wanted to take Bautista Agut, and I honestly think I still am going to. However, the head-to-head for them is 2-0 for Duckworth. 1 match was in 2021, 1 was in 2013, so not really much we can weigh here. Duckworth able to win both of those in 3 sets. Both were 7-6 in the third set, so this has been a pretty tight rivalry here. They meet again now 13 years later down the road at the end of their careers. And one thing that I like from both these guys is they left Indian Wells. Obviously didn't have the results that they wanted. Duckworth with a first-round losses for China, and Bautista Agut with a win over Maroszan, and then a 3-set loss to Draper. Very interesting match there. But both head to challengers, and that just sends you a sign that they want to get grooved so that they're ready to play in Miami. Like, they don't want to just take a week off and practice. Like, they want to play real matches. And I like that. I think that really shows you, where both these guys' heads are at. They know this is an important time to maybe snag some points as we move into the next Grand Slam of the year. Duckworth playing in the Phoenix Challenger. He beat Struff 6-7, 6-4, 6-4. Lost to Borges 3-6, 6-4, 6-2. Bautista Agut beat Goffin in the first round 6-1, 6-4. He lost to Royer 6-4, 7-6. Bautista Agut's outdoor hardcourt record is 2-4, and Duckworth's outdoor hardcourt record is 4-6. So not great from these guys, and I really think we're splitting hairs, but for me, I was just very impressed with what we saw from Bautista Agut in Indian Wells. Now, obviously, these courts are going to be a little bit different, but I think he's going to be able to carry this over. I was very underwhelmed with the 2-4 loss to Serchina in back-to-back losses, too. So Duckworth played him in Acapulco as well, lost 4-1, then lost 2-4. So not much improvement there. I think we're going to see Bautista Agut eke out a small, a close 3-set win. So give me Bautista Agut in 3. And here's a look at Alcaraz as part of the draw. Obviously, we would have that Alcaraz-Fonseca matchup circled. I think that would be amazing. These guys have never played before, so, night match, you're going to have a huge crowd for Fonseca. That would be just an epic second-round matchup. I think Alcaraz can get through this part of the draw. We remember he did have difficulty last year losing to David Goffin in the second round. So that was his first match. He lost in 3 sets. Lost in the quarters the year before to Dimitrov. Lost in the semis to Sinner the year before that, and won over Casper Ruud in 2022. So he does have some decent results here. Last year was a little bit of a head-scratcher. Again, 2 head-scratching losses back-to-back. That Indian Wells loss to Draper last year, and then the Goffin loss. And here we have a loss to Medvedev in the semis, kind of similar. And will we get a second-round loss to Fonseca? I don't know. We'll have to find out. Stay tuned for the next episode. Look at Taylor Fritz's part of the draw. Our first match, we have Ethan Quinn playing Hurkacz, and this is a rematch of the second round of the Australian Open. We've talked a little bit about this match, and I honestly feel like the statistics, the numbers, when you look at them, they don't tell the full story. You would look at these numbers and think this is probably a 5-set win for one guy or the other. You probably wouldn't think that it would be a straight set win for Ethan Quinn. Hurkacz served really well. He had a ton of break opportunities. He just wasn't able to convert, and one of the biggest things that I saw was Ethan Quinn's ability to start to step around and dictate with his forehand. And the minute he started to do that, it was like the middle of the first set, he started to control a lot more points against Hurkacz, and that just gave him all the confidence in the world to win most of these points. Now, this loss to Ethan Quinn kind of spiraled into a 6-match losing streak. So he hasn't won a match since the Australian Open, losing to Ethan Quinn in straight sets, losing to Martin Dam in straight sets, losing to Bublik in 3 sets, losing to Mensik in straight sets in Dubai, losing to Kovacevic in straight sets in Indian Wells, and then losing to Bellucci in a challenger. Now, obviously, Kovacevic, he played really well at Indian Wells. Bellucci made the finals of the Challenger. Mensik made the semifinals of Dubai. So, Hurkacz isn't losing to bad players, but remember, I can't remember what draw it was that we were talking about Hurkacz, and I kept saying, look at me trying to dance around something that's staring me right in the face. He's on a losing streak, and in tennis, sometimes it's tough to dig yourself out of that losing streak, especially when you come up against a guy that has been winning a lot. And now we have Ethan Quinn, and since the Australian Open, He has beat Marigin in a epic three-setter in Davis Cup. Lost to Cilic in Dallas in the second round. Lost to Hadar in Delray Beach. Lost to Opelka at Indian Wells in straights. That was a very disappointing loss. I just expected a little bit more from Quinn there. But Opelka obviously an extremely tough style. We saw Opelka go out in the next round and really push Shelton to the brink of almost defeat there. So Opelka was playing good tennis. But the thing that's the big kicker for me here is he just won the Phoenix Challenger. Beat Shevchenko in the first round, beat Mo in the second round, Bonzi in straight sets in the quarters, Billy Harris in the semis, and then Marcos Giron 7-6, 4-6, 7-5. Extremely clutch match there for Ethan Quinn to hang on and win. And guys, for me, he's got to have all the confidence of the world. He improves to 8-5 now on the outdoor hard courts. Hurkacz is sitting at 5-5 on the outdoor hard courts. It's really tough for me to pick against Ethan Quinn. I just don't think I can. They're head-to-head, as we talked about. They've only met that one time, a straight set win for Ethan Quinn. I have a funny feeling that this is going to be a little bit closer than the previous match. I mean, the first two sets were 6-4, 7-6. Then we had the 6-1 set at the end where Quinn just started to bring everything together, and he looked great. Just really didn't give Hurkacz a fighting chance there in the third set. I'm going to go with Quinn. I think he's got a lot of confidence coming off that challenger, especially beating, this challenger was pretty solid. A lot of good players. Bonzi, main draw of Indian Wells. Shevchenko, main draw of Indian Wells. Giron, main draw of Indian Wells. Billy Harris was in the qualifiers. So a lot of solid players here in the Phoenix Challenger, and Ethan Quinn able to beat all of them. I'm going to go with Ethan Quinn. I think he's going to win this one in 3 sets. Next match we have Opelka playing Borges, and this match is really tricky. We don't have a head-to-head, so we're going to have to kind of feel this one out. We got Opelka coming off a tough 3-set loss to Ben Shelton, 6-7, 7-6, 6-3 in the second round of Indian Wells. But he did have a really nice win over Ethan Quinn. And if you guys remember that match, Opelka able to break Quinn, I believe it was twice. And Quinn did have a break lead in that second set. Gives it back. Opelka plays a pretty nice return game, hitting a couple return winners. And, we see Ethan Quinn the next week go on and win the Phoenix Challenger. So he is playing good tennis. I mean, I think this was a really good win for Opelka, especially coming off only playing in the Australian Open. So having that month or so off and then coming back and being able to notch a good win against a solid player is definitely a step forward. Nuno Borges beat Emilio Nava in the first round, 7-6, 7-5. Lost to Vachero in the second round, 7-5, 7-5. Goes over to Phoenix and plays that challenger. He beats Duckworth in 3 sets. We've talked about Duckworth. He's not really playing great tennis. And then loses to Giron, who makes the finals. Loses a tough 3-setter to Ethan Quinn. I like the Borges return against Opelka. I like the way that Borges stays up on the baseline. And he'll be able to redirect some of these body blows from Opelka. But I'm just finding it really hard to bet against Opelka. I think Opelka's playing the better tennis. And Borges is very close to my no-pick list. We know Hurkacz is on there. I won't pick him until, he's on a 6-match losing streak. So I won't pick him until he really proves to me that he can kind of get back here and compete with some of the top guys. And Marigin's also on the no-pick list. So Borges is close to being there for me. I've picked him a few times, and I've gotten burned a few times. But I'm not going to pick him here. Give me the serve of Riley Opelka to get him through one round of Miami. Let's go Opelka in straight sets. Next match, we have Denis Shapovalov playing Botic van de Zanschulp, and this head-to-head is at 1-1. Both guys splitting matches in 2024. Shapo winning the first round of the Indian Wells tournament, 6-1, 6-4. and then Bodic getting his revenge at the U.S. Open in the first round, winning 6-4, 7-5, 6-4. And we remember that 2024 U.S. Open, that was the one that Bodic went on to beat Carlos Alcaraz in straight sets in that wild night match. He was a straight setter, but still kind of wild to see that loss. And then losing to Draper, who makes it out. I believe Draper made it out to the semis or maybe the quarters of that year. Both guys are sitting at 3 and 4 in the outdoor hard court. We have Shapo coming off a third round appearance at Indian Wells. He beat Tsitsipas in 3 tough sets. He beat Echeverry in 3 tough sets. And then he lost in straight sets to Sinner. We were kind of expecting that. We thought that was going to be a pretty straightforward match for Sinner. But credit to him, I thought he really fought well, especially that Echeverry match. I didn't think he was playing great tennis, but he was able to get through it and just use his power and aggression to push Echeverry around and create offensive points for himself. Van de Zanschulp, on the other hand, lost in the first round of. He's riding a 3-match losing streak right now. Lost to Deminaur in Rotterdam in the quarterfinals in 3 sets. Lost to Carina Busta 6-3, 6-2 in Dubai, and then lost in the first round of Indian Wells to Juan Manuel Cerundolo 7-6, 6-7, 6-3. And we know Cerundolo, he's more of a clay quarter than he is a hard quarter. I remember watching that match. There was just a lot of back and forth. Van de Zanschulp doesn't really have a lot of large weapons that he can use, so a little bit tough for him to hit through Juan Manuel Cerundolo. I thought Cerundolo was playing really good defense during that match as well. Now he plays a much more aggressive player in Shapovalov, and I think this is going to be more like that Indian Wells match than it is going to be like the U.S. Open match. The courts here are a little bit faster, so Bodic's going to find himself on the defense a little bit more. I'm going to go with Shapovalov. I think this is going to be, it could be a tricky 3-setter, but I think it's going to be 2 tight sets, so give me Shapo in straights. And guys, just a quick reminder, I will publish, once the qualifiers are completed, I will publish another video with the remainder of these draw matches, because there are some matches that I really do want to talk about. This one over here, the qualifier against Kwame. We remember Kwame from Montpellier had a really nice tournament there. He's young. He's got a big forehand. Can't wait to talk about him. But this is what Fritz's section looks like right now. Quinn and Ruud in the second round is kind of a crazy matchup. And then Shapo playing Fritz in the second round is also a very competitive matchup. So we might get some quality matches already going in. Before we even hit the weekend, we might already get some quality matches here in the second round. But let's take a look at the next part of the draw. Here's a look at Musetti's section of the draw, and we get Bergs and Brooksby as a first round match. And I remember seeing this and I was like, I don't think I saw this at Indian Wells. And then I was like, oh wait, we saw it at Dubai. And Brooksby was able to get through 6-3, 6-4 over Zizou Bergs. So 1-0 head-to-head. That's the only time they met. We have Bergs now at 5 and 5 on the outdoor hard courts. Brooksby have 4 and 5 on the outdoor hard courts. Bergs getting a nice win over Struff in straight sets, 6-3, 6-4 in Indian Wells, then losing to Tommy Paul 6-1, 6-2. We talked about how we thought that match was going to be very straightforward. Bergs just not playing the best tennis, and then honestly the way that Tommy Paul just made him play every shot back over and over again, way too many unforced errors from Bergs to even be competitive in that match. Then we had Brooksby, who was able to beat Popperin, which I thought could have been a trickier match for him, but him able to get through there, and then play Tiafoe, who he had a undefeated head-to-head record against, loses in straight sets. Tiafoe obviously under new coaching staff there. They're making some changes there. He's able to get a win over Brooksby. So a little bit disappointing for Brooksby. I'm sure he was definitely hoping to make it a little bit farther in that tournament. Looking at this matchup, I feel like the Brooksby style, I always look when Brooksby plays these players is who is his style really going to bother, and it bothers people like Tommy Paul, we know gets really bothered by it. we just saw Kachanov kind of got really bothered by it. And I think Zizou Bergs is also a guy that this style is just going to, it's very unconventional, I guess I would say. So I'm going to pick Brooksby. I think it's going to be another straight setter. We do have, though, the potential of the revenge factor. We always talk about that. Maybe Bergs is able to get some revenge, but I'm just not seeing it. He's lost 3 of his last 4 matches. I just don't see that strength coming out of Bergs yet. So give me Brooksby in straight sets. Next match, we have Zhang playing Mannarino. And we talked about how Zhang was former number 31 in the world, trying to make his way back into the tennis world, or at least the top tennis tier here. And he has a 1-0 head-to-head against Mannarino, beating him in the 2024 Rome Masters 6-1, 6-3 in the second round. So he's got a little bit of experience here playing Mannarino. You know, Adrian Mannarino looked amazing in the indoors, and we saw him play that tough 3-setter against Shelton. He's able to make it to the finals of Montpellier. He's 5-3 at indoor hard courts. He's only 1-6 in the outdoor hard courts. Zhang, on the other hand, is 7-6 on the outdoor hard courts. Obviously, Mannarino, the much higher ranked guy here. Looking at their previous matches, Zhang just played a challenger, losing Coleman Wong in 3 sets. Coleman Wong playing pretty good tennis. He lost in Dubai to Felix Auger Aliassime. That was 6-3, 7-6. That was a pretty close match. And that breaker, I think Felix did a good job of just controlling that breaker with the forehand and being able to not have to force a third set there. I think that would have made things a lot trickier for him. Mannarino, on the other hand, able to go to the Phoenix Challenger. He gets his one outdoor hardcourt win over Bicknell, 6-7, 6-2, 6-2, and then loses to Billy Harris in 3 sets. Mannarino lost to Berrettini in 3 sets, and that was also a very tough match. We remember Berrettini was cramping at the end of that match. Mannarino just worked him very hard, but Berrettini, again, similar to Felix, Berrettini able to find that forehand, start controlling the middle of the court, and move Mannarino out wide. And Zhang doesn't have like the large weapons that a Berrettini or a Felix would, but I just feel like he's going to pose a lot of problems here for Mannarino. I just don't trust Mannarino with that 1-6 record. I think Zhang's going to win this match. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be extremely tricky here. Mannarino's always willing to put up a fight here. So give me Zhang in 3 sets. The match to talk about here is Collignon playing Dimitrov, and this match might be a little bit tricky. These guys have already played each other this year. That was their only head-to-head meeting, and it was a straight set victory for Collignon in Brisbane in the second round, 7-6, 6-3. Pretty nice win for Collignon to start his year off, beating a quality player like Dimitrov. Now, Collignon, obviously, I was a little bit disappointed with his performance in Indian Wells. I didn't think he played bad. I just didn't think I thought he hit a few too many errors in opportune moments against Fonseca. He had chances to kind of get a lead in both sets, wasn't able to do it, loses 7-6, 6-4 to Fonseca. He goes over to the Challenger Tour and beats a couple of guys, Barrios Vera and Van Asch. Van Asch is kind of like a name that you would know if you kind of followed the challengers. So that's a solid win. Collignon beats him 7-5, 6-4. Loses to Bellucci 6-4, 6-2. And Bellucci is able to make the finals, losing to Navoni. So not too bad of a loss. Dimitrov, on the other hand, no challengers for him. He played the first round against Terence Atman, gets through in 3 sets, and that was a pretty good match for him, at least an impressive match from what I was watching, because he was able to fight off the aggressive shots of Terence Atman, and when Aman won the second set, and Aman even had a break lead in the second set, and he gave it back to Dimitrov, but Dimitrov just kept fighting him. He takes a lot of time away on the baseline, not a lot of time for Atman to hit that forehand, and Atman likes to kind of settle in and start to dictate and move the ball a little bit. But Dimitrov didn't allow him a chance to do any of that. Plus, he was throwing in so much variety on that backhand side, with the chips, with the heavy ball, with the flat ball. Dimitrov gets out and plays Alcaraz and loses 2 and 3. We kind of expected that. I think maybe a few years ago he might have been able to push Alcaraz a little bit more, but now it's in the twilight of his career. It's a little bit harder to be a player of the quality of Alcaraz. Dimitrov is sitting at 2 and 4 on the outdoor hard courts, while Collignon is 6 and 5 on the outdoor hard courts. I'm going to go back to Collignon again to get this win. I think again, like the same thing that I said about earlier about these players going to the Challenger Tour, obviously Collignon expecting to maybe make a couple of rounds in the Master Series. He doesn't do that. So instead he goes back to the Challengers, gets a couple of wins, loses to Bellucci, but he's now primed and ready to go here. So I'm going to go with Collignon. I think he wins this one in 3 sets. Here's a look at Musetti's round of 64 picks, and I like the way that the draw is shaping up for Brooksby. I think Brooksby can get through Etcheverry. Etcheverry, obviously more of a clay quarter. He can pose a lot of problems. He's going to get a lot of balls back from Brooksby, but Brooksby's got that all-around game where he can kind of come into net and hit some shots that really bother Etcheverry. Then we have the 2 qualifiers playing Musetti, and Musetti did not look good at Indian Wells. I'm not sure if that injury is still kind of prevalent there, but we definitely got to keep an eye on that from him. So maybe Brooksby can get out to the round of 16 where he would play maybe Caboli or Paul. The Caboli-Paul round of 32 match would be amazing to see. But let's not count our chickens just yet. Let's take a look at the next part of the draw. Let's look at Diminaur's part of the draw, and maybe we get that Bublik-Diminaur round of 16 match. Would love to see that. But first match, we got Muller playing Berrettini. And Muller hasn't played a match since February 7th. And the reason for that is a calf strain. So we definitely got to keep an eye on that, especially with the movement, especially in the heat of Miami. The muscles are going to get a little bit tired. Berrettini, on the other hand, played the entire clay court swing and was able to get a nice 3-set win over Mannarino. That was a very, very tough, tricky match. Obviously, Mannarino, not the best guy to play if you want to get like a good rhythm and everything. But Berrettini able to use that forehand and just dictate with that forehand and hit a few shots there to get to the end. You remember the match point, he rips a forehand winner and then immediately starts cramping. So he gave it his all there. He plays Zverev a couple days later, loses 6-3, 6-4. Doesn't look too bad, though. So, for me, I just always question, if you're Muller, I feel like when you come back, the last person you want to play is a guy that's like a grinder, that you're going to have to be out there and play like a lot of long points. I feel like you would rather play a guy like Berrettini that could potentially give you a few more errors, a few more free points, because you're not going to be as sharp. It's been a month. Almost a month and a half now since you played, so you're not going to be as sharp. You don't want to play somebody that's not going to give you a lot of mistakes and give you some points. So I have a feeling maybe we get a second set that's close, but I think Berrettini wins this one in straight sets. Next match we have Darwin Blanch playing Struff, and Blanch more of a regular on the Challenger Tour. We do remember his Winston-Salem Open run to the second round. He was able to get out of qualifiers, beat Coric, and then losing to Muller. And the only reason I remember that is because the matches were just so exciting. Blanch gets very, very amped. He really gets into it, and I think this is something that's really going to benefit him. He's not going to squander an opportunity like this. First round of a Master Series, a chance to win, and you're playing Struff, a guy that isn't great on the hard courts. Looking at Struff's record on the outdoor hard courts. He's 4-7 this year. He was 7-11 last year, and he was 4-8 the year before that. Blanch, on the other hand, is 6-6 this year, 31-14 last year, and 16-10 the year before that. Blanch coming off a loss to Billy Harris in the Phoenix Challenger. He lost in 3 sets, 3-6, 7-6, 7-6. Blanch has that big serve, so he's able to kind of stay in a lot of these sets with even some of the better players. Blanch was able to get a nice win over Terrence Ottman in the first round of the Phoenix Challenger, 6-4, 6-4. And I put that on just because I wanted to watch Blanch play. I find him a very exciting player. I like to watch his game. It's extremely appealing, like an exciting game to watch. But Ottman seemed to be a little bit bothered with something in his upper leg. It looked like he was trying to stretch maybe like the hip out or the groin out a little bit. So I'm not sure how much that weighed into the loss, because it looked like when they played all these longer points or Blanch had Ottman on the defense, he was moving fine. So I didn't really see any signs of that kind of coming through there. I'm not sure. Maybe he just felt a little uncomfortable or tight in that area. Who knows? Blanch also played in the qualifiers of Indian Wells, and he lost to Dino Prismic 7-6, 6-0. And we remember Prismic was able to get through the qualifying there in Indian Wells. Looking at Struff, he lost in the first round to Zizou Bergs 6-3, 6-4. We talked about Zizou Bergs already, not playing the best of tennis this year. And then Struff lost to Duckworth 6-7, 6-4, 6-4. I feel like this is a golden opportunity for Darwin Blanch to get a win in a Masters Series and, get some points and move up in the rankings a little bit. I think he's going to win this match. I think it's going to be kind of a big upset here. I'm going to pick Darwin Blanch to get through in 3 sets. And this second round matchups would be probably the most enticing of any section of the draw. We would have 2 shot makers in Bublik and Berrettini, 2 more shot makers in Feast and Blanch, Tsitsipas and Deminaur, and Navoni, who just won a challenger, so he's riding high, taking on Vachero. So we might have 4 really good matches on our hands if we can get these guys through. But obviously we got to wait for those qualifiers to come in, and then we'll talk about those matches. Let's take a look at the next section of the draw. Here's a look at Shelton's part of the draw, and Shelton's got to be happy looking down on that draw, not seeing Learned Tien on the bottom as a potential round of 32 matchup. Humbert, he was able to play him and beat him in the Australian Open first round, so I don't think he's too worried about that matchup. Let's take a look at the first match. Winner plays Shelton. Arnaldi playing Shevchenko, and this head-to-head is 2-0 for Arnaldi. Arnaldi winning in the Canberra Challenger in 2023, 6-4, 6-1 in the first round, and then first round of the St. Tropez Challenger, 6-1, 6-2 in 2022. So Shevchenko hasn't won a set. However, we did talk about Arnaldi's injury and whether he was going to be ready to come back, and I thought it was pretty clear that he wasn't ready. Mackenzie McDonald able to beat him 6-0, 6-1. And I'm a little bit surprised that Arnaldi's back here playing again. Obviously, it does tell us, he is ready to come back. There wasn't really any questions there of whether he would return. Shevchenko losing to Casper Ruud in the second round of Indian Wells, 6-1, 7-6. The first set was really quick. He was able to be a little bit more competitive in the second set. He did get a good win against Shimabukuro, the qualifier in the first round of Indian Wells, 6-4, 3-6, 6-2. And Shevchenko pushed Ethan Quinn in the first round of the Phoenix Challenger. Obviously an unfortunate draw for him. He plays the guy that goes out and wins the whole thing. And Shevchenko loses to him 6-7, 6-4, 6-2. So he's playing good tennis. And I don't know how much I can weigh that head-to-head in here, especially with the Arnaldi injury on the back of my mind. Arnaldi is 1-2 in the outdoor hard courts. Shevchenko is 7-7 in the outdoor hard courts. For me, I just I just think I gotta pick Shevchenko. I can't go with Arnaldi after what I saw against Mackenzie McDonald. He just did not look sharp. He did not look ready to return. So I'm gonna go with the guy that I feel like is playing better tennis right now. Give me Shevchenko in straight sets. This next matchup is going to be a really good one, and it's definitely a tricky one to pick. We have Diallo playing Wu, and 2 weeks ago, if you had given me this matchup, maybe if it was like the first round of Indian Wells, I probably would have picked Wu. Obviously, seeing the way Diallo played in Indian Wells now, I definitely wouldn't have. Hindsight's 2020 though, I guess. But 2 weeks ago, Gabriel Diallo only had 2 wins on the year. One was over a Brazilian player in Davis Cup, and then the other was in the first round of Hong Kong all the way back in the first week of January. Now, looking at him, he gets a solid win over Bellucci, and then a tough 3-set win over Rublev. We remember Rublev having that tough flight situation coming in, only having a few days to prepare for the tournament. And then Diallo's able to push Felix to 3 sets, losing 6-7, 6-3, 6-3 to Felix. Wu, on the other hand, making the quarterfinals of Acapulco, losing to Kabuli 7-6, 6-1. But on the way there, he's able to beat players like Hijikata, who made a decent run in Indian Wells, Casper Ruud, who also made a good run in Indian Wells, Shima Bakuro, who was able to qualify for Indian Wells, and he's a pretty solid player. So a few nice wins for Wu, but he then goes to the challenger level and loses in qualifiers to Andrade, and that's a little bit concerning for us when we're trying to pick here. I feel like Diallo is going to come in booming with confidence. We have a Gabriel Diallo that's right now, he's 3-5 on the outdoor hard courts. Yabing Wu is 10-5 on the outdoor hard courts, so really nice record. These guys haven't played each other. A lot of these first rounds that we're seeing, too, guys, are first-time matchups. So that's really cool. You get to see, the first few games, probably like first 3-4 games, these guys are going to be feeling each other out, kind of figuring out what they can do to beat the other guy. There's not that familiarity. They might come in with a game plan, but most likely that game plan is going to have to change as they start to analyze the player. I'm going to go with Diallo. And that's the reason I brought it up was because I don't think I would have gone with Diallo 2 weeks ago. But I like the momentum. I think momentum is a very strong thing in tennis as well. I think his confidence is up. I think he's going to win this one in straight sets. Give me Diallo in straights. Next match, we have Kovacevic playing Sakamoto. And I feel like if you look at this matchup and you don't watch a lot of the Challenger Tour, you're immediately going to say, oh, this is Kova. He's going to win in straight sets easily because you just watched him go 3 sets with Djokovic. But Sakamoto is a very solid player. This is not going to be an easy match for Kovacevic. He's going to have to come out. He's going to have to play at least his A-, B+ game to beat Sakamoto. I got a lot of respect for Sakamoto. 12-7 on the outdoor hard courts. 27-16 in 2025 on the outdoor hard courts. These guys don't have any head-to-head here. Again, another matchup that we're gonna have to just kind of feel this one out. Kovacevic is playing good tennis. He's 6-6 on the outdoor hard courts. We talked about how he was able to add a couple of Tiafoe's older coaches to his coaching staff, and he's looking a lot better. Like, the backhand looks really good. He's stepping in. He's taking the backhand early. He's able to find the forehand, and credit to him, he was able to win a 6-1 set over Novak Djokovic. And yeah, like towards the end of that, you could feel like Djokovic was kind of letting that set go a little bit. He knew that he could win that in 3 sets, but Kova stayed right with him in that third set. It was just that nervy game at the 5-4. Kova serving to stay in it, not able to hold. Djokovic gets the break. He makes his big push and gets the match. But I'm really excited to see how Kova does. I'm not sure how he's going to do on the clay, but I'm excited to see him on the summer hardcourt circuit. So we'll be looking forward to that. Sakamoto lost to Kopriva, at Indian Wells in the qualifier, 6-4, 7-6. He then goes over to the Challenger Tour. He beats Liam Draxel 6-3, 7-5, and Van Ash. We talk about Van Ash being a pretty solid Challenger level player, and Sakamoto loses to him 7-6, 6-3. I see this match being one tough set, and then maybe like a 6-2 or a 6-1 set. But I'm going to take Kova. All I'm saying is don't expect this to be a convincing match. I think Sakamoto is a very solid player. He's up and coming, only 19 years old. We're going to see this name in a couple of years, I believe. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But give me Kova in straight sets here. Here's a look at Shelton's part of the draw. And not sure how much gas Medvedev has left in the tank, but I could see him getting out to the round of 16 and losing to Shelton. Also, a Shelton-Diallo round of 32 matchup would be amazing. I would love to see that. A lot of shot making there. We got to keep an eye on Cerundolo. Again, we talked about his back issues, so we got to keep an eye on that. And we still have one more matchup to talk about, Royer against a qualifier. We'll talk about that tomorrow once the qualifiers are completed. Let's move on to the next part of the draw. Look at Zverev section of the draw, and I kind of feel like when these draws come out, all these players have to be looking for certain players who are kind of lurking in the draw, whether they're seeded or not. One of those players is Lerner Tien. I think he's gaining a lot of respect of the top players. He has obviously, tough loss to Sinner. He's not at that level yet, but I definitely think he could give someone like Zverev a run for his money. But anyways, let's take a look at the first matchup. We have Majchak playing Kecmanovic, and both guys coming in playing pretty good tennis, although both did go to the challenger level and didn't have much success there. Let's talk about Kecmanovic first. He's 6-7 on the outdoor hard courts, making it to the semifinals of Acapulco, having a chance to win that match. I believe he was up a break there against Caboli. Caboli able to fight back, win that match, and then win the entire tournament. Kecmanovic 1 week later is able to beat Altmaier, but then has another chance at Caboli. This is another devastating 3-set loss. Caboli looking pretty good as well. Had that familiarity against Kecmanovic. We thought we were going to get the revenge factor there, but we didn't. Kecmanovic then goes to the Copacabana Challenger and beats Mackie McDonald 6-4, 7-6 and loses to Adam Walton 2-6, 7-5, 6-2. Looking at Majchak, he has a first-round loss to Popyrin. Remember, we talked about how that was a real big head-scratcher. Popyrin, that was Popyrin's first real win of the season for him. Then he goes to Indian Wells and he beats Perricard, the big server, big forehand. He beats him in 3 sets and pushes Novak to 3 sets as well, winning the first set. He was up in that match. I think it was either 5-0 or 5-1, maybe at points for 5-0, but he was very close to closing that first set out 6-1, and then it got really tricky. Djokovic getting close to being able to break back and make it 5-all, but Majchak able to hold on and win that set. But you could just tell at the end of that set, the tide had kind of turned in Djokovic's favor, and that he was going to be able to find a way to get out of that match. Majchak then goes to the Phoenix Challenger and loses in the first round to Basilashvili. 7-6, 6-3, straight sets, a little bit disappointing. Looking at these guys head-to-head, it is 4-1 for Kecmanovic. Kecmanovic winning the last matchup in November 2025 in the Athens Championship first round. It's just called the Hellenic Championship. So Athens tournament, Kecmanovic wins 7-6, 7-6. That's an indoor hardcourt tournament. The other 4 matchups were on outdoor hard courts, and that is a 3-1 head-to-head for Kecmanovic. I think we're going to see a tough match. I actually think this is going to be 3 sets. I think both guys are playing pretty well. Obviously, not much success from the challengers, but I think these guys are going to be focused. And again, very similar, there's some opportunity for these guys to get a couple of rounds wins and that's extremely important. So they're going to be fighting to get that. I'm going to say Kekmanovic wins this one in 3 sets. Next matchup, we have Cilic playing Popyrin, and I like this matchup for Cilic. Their head-to-head is 2-1. Cilic winning the last match in Dubai in 2025. Their two matches before that were 2022 and 2021. So this 2025 match is a little bit more relevant. It was a 3-set win, 5-7, 6-3, 6-4 in the second round of Dubai. Right now we have Popyrin with 2 wins on the year on the outdoor hard court, and that's a little bit concerning. One was to Zaid, who we had talked about is outside like the top 1,000, and then one was to Mychek in 3 sets. Popyrin losing in the first round of Indian Wells to Brooksby 6-3, 6-4. He's been struggling. Popyrin's struggling with his tennis here, I think. Cilic, on the other hand, 3-4 on the outdoor hard courts, 3-1 on the indoor hard courts. He's had a little bit more success there. Tough loss in Delray Beach to Nakashima 7-6, 7-6, and then another tricky loss to Schweida 7-6, 6-4. I think this might be a pretty close match. I assume that we're going to get one breaker. I think Cilic is going to be able to win that breaker, and it'll kind of turn the tide of the match, whether it's a first set or second set breaker. So I'm going to say Cilic. I'm going to say he's going to win like 7-6, 6-4. It'll be straight sets. Next match, we have Martin Damm playing Jacob Fernley. And honestly, guys, this one you can just flip a coin for. Like, I don't really know. We're splitting hairs here. Both these guys haven't had the best years yet. Obviously, Martin Damm, he had that nice run in Montpellier. That's kind of padding his record. He's 10-7 overall, 6-3 on the indoor hard courts, 4-4 on the outdoor hard courts. Fernley is 5-9 overall, 4-7 on the outdoor hard courts, 1-2 on the indoor hard courts. Both guys coming off losses in the first round at the challenger level. Damm losing in the first round of qualifiers to Magia 6-3, 6-4, and Fernley losing in the first round to Cazot 6-2, 3-6, 6-1. Fernley looked good for a set against Taylor Fritz, but he wasn't able to maintain that level and loses the third set 6-1 in the second round of Indian Wells. Martin Damm struggled with the paces of the core and how slow the balls were moving. He struggled being able to impose his game on Carabelli, who just got a lot of the shots back and was able to just bother Damm in his game. I'm going to pick Fernley. I think the one thing that concerns me with Fernley is Damm has that big serve, and it's always so tough. Like, if you're at 30-all on the Damm serve and you play a very long point, you earn a break point, and then Damm just hits that serve and it's gone. So, like, it's always very frustrating. Sometimes he when he serves and with his forehand and his volleys, he has the ability to take the racket out of your hands, and sometimes that's a little bit mentally frustrating. So it'll be interesting to see how Fernley is able to handle that. But I think Fernley can turn this around. 2024 he was 45-9. He just had a ridiculous year. So I think he's got the opportunity here to kind of come out, maybe play Zverev, maybe give Zverev a little bit of a run here. Give me Fernley in 3 sets. Here's a look at Zverev's quarter with my round of 64 picks, and how about Lerner Tien being able to get that rematch against Kekmanovic? He did win that, but he was down a break. Kekmanovic was serving the match out in Delray Beach, so Kekmanovic's going to be looking for a little bit more revenge. We saw him look for revenge against Kaboli at Indian Wells, wasn't able to get it, loses in 3 sets again, so that'll be really interesting to see how he approaches that match. Then we would have a potential rematch again with Tien and Fokina. We remember that match was a tough 3-setter, 7-6 in the third in Indian Wells. And if he wins that, he potentially gets a rematch of his Australian Open quarterfinal against Zverev. So very interesting, we go from having like all these first rounders where we don't have any head-to-heads, and we might have some head-to-heads that even occurred, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So extremely interesting as we move on through this tournament. let's take a look at the final part of the draw. And just kidding, this isn't the final part of the draw. This is the second to last part of the draw. We have Felix Auger-Aliassime's part of the draw here. And he comes in as the 7th seed. Our first matchup that we're going to look at is Terence Altman playing Altmaier. And I think this is going to be a pretty straightforward match, although I do have some concerns. We talked a little bit about the Altman potential injury when he lost to Darwin Blanch in straight sets in the Phoenix Challenger. He was kind of feeling the groin, the upper leg, so not sure what that was. He didn't call for the trainer, so maybe wasn't a cause for concern for us. But let's take a look at this matchup. No head-to-head from these guys. We have Altmaier, who is 0-5 on outdoor hard courts. Terence Altman, who is 4-7 on the outdoor hard courts. Altmaier with a loss to Kekmanovic, 6-3, 1-0, retired. And that was a little bit of a weird one. I think he stated it was an illness, and they played a really tough first set, and then Kekmanovic gets the break, and I think he's up 30-love in his game, and Altmaier just says no more. So I'm not sure how much, there's no injury or anything that we really have to look at there. Terence Altman with that tough 3-set loss to Dimitrov at Indian Wells, but he's playing very well. I got to go with Altman here. I think he's going to be able to get out and dictate. He's got that big forehand. He's got the good serve. He's definitely got that bad taste in his mouth of losing to Blanch in a challenger. So he's going to want to get that out of him. So give me Altman here. Let's go straight sets. And no more other matchups to talk about here. We got a couple of qualifiers, or 3 matches with qualifiers in them. I do like the potential Baez-Mensik matchup. And then Arthur Cazot, he's back. He just played the Phoenix Challenger. So that'll be really interesting if he's able to get through there and play Tiafoe. That would be a really exciting, probably a night match. We know Cazot kind of likes the crowd and everything. So that'll be really interesting if we can get that matchup. But let's move to the final section of the draw. Let's look at Sinner's part of the draw. First matchup we're going to look at is Tabilo playing Komasana. And Tabilo has a 1-0 head-to-head. He won in a clay court challenger back in 2023. This was a quarterfinal match. He was able to win 4-6, 6-3, 7-5. Komasana hasn't looked great on the outdoor hard court. He did play Indian Wells, losing to Korda 7-5, 6-0. We remember that match. That was a night match. Korda was a little bit nervous at the beginning of the match. Goes down an early break, breaks back, goes down another break, breaks back. It was just a very weird back and forth first set, but Korda able to kind of tighten up those errors and win the next set 6-0. Komasana is just not a comfortable hardcourt player, so I can't say we can really trust him there. And honestly, I would say the same about Tabilo, but watching him against Hadar, I was so impressed. 6-1, 6-2. He's able to win that. And then he runs into Medvedev. And we remember what Medvedev did last week. Extremely tough on the Indian Wells surface. So Tabilo, no match for him, losing 6-4, 6-2. In this matchup, I like Tabilo to win this. I think it's going to be Tabilo in straight sets. So let's go with Tabilo in straights. The final match we're going to discuss is Emilio Nava playing Tomas Machac. And no head-to-head here. Machac is 7-3 on the outdoor hard courts. Emilio Nava is 4-5 on the outdoor hard courts. I thought Nava would be able to bring maybe some confidence that he got from the clay courts, but he loses to Nuno Borges 7-6, 7-5, kind of in brutal fashion. He should have won that match. And then he goes to the Phoenix Challenger and loses 6-2, 7-6. So things seem to be going a little bit backwards for Emilio Nava here. Tomas Machac hasn't played since Doha, where he lost to Sinner 6-1, 6-4. I think he withdrew from Dubai with an injury, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. He was playing good tennis, going into the Australian Open. Has that 5-set loss to Musetti. We saw what Musetti was able to do. Musetti up 2-0 on Novak before he gets injured and then has to withdraw from that match. I like Mahatch in this match. I think he's going to be looking to get back on track here. Starts with a win in Adelaide, gets to the third round of the Australian Open, but then loses back-to-back matches in Montpellier and Doha. So I think he's really going to be looking to get back on track. This is a very tough match for Emilio Nava. Mahatch returns very well. He moves really well from the baseline, and he's got a very aggressive game. So Nava might find himself on the defense a lot here. I'm going to go with Mahatch. I think it's going to be Mahatch in 2 tough sets. To look at Sinner's part of the draw, would love to see Mahatch get out there and maybe get a potential rematch with Sinner. I think that match would be a lot closer. Norrie obviously might be some people might be picking him to kind of make it out to play Sinner. I think we might be overplaying him based on the result that he had at Indian Wells. I'm not sure he's going to find that success here. Mickelson could potentially make it out to this to the round of 32 to play Rublev, or even the round of 16 to play Sinner. Would love to see that. But let me know what you guys think. Post your picks in the comments. Would love to hear from you. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. Really looking forward to another good 2 weeks of tennis. I'll see you guys in the next video.